Hey friends! Alright, so I'm going to do a video that I never thought I would ever do because it's very opinionated and I just think it's just very opinionated, and I have come to terms that I realized what I believe is the best overall guitar. I can't even believe I'm saying that. So, hear me out. I've been playing guitar for about almost 10 years. I've owned over 100 guitars. I've worked at a music store. I've played multiple brands. I've played expensive guitars. I've played non-expensive guitars. I've played guitars that were, I played a $6,000 guitar. I've played a $100 guitar. I've played them all. And I'm here to say that I truly believe the best guitar is a Gibson Les Paul. Now hear me out. I know there's a lot of people that are triggered right now. I'm going to explain why, and I'm going to show you just overall what I think the reason is why I think this. I don't even know. I've owned Les Pauls in the past and I thought they were great, but until recently I actually sat down and I played with one for a while. And I finally have decided, I was like, I really truly believe this is the best guitar. Now, I'm going to show you some guitars that I own that actually are just as expensive and are really awesome guitars. So my guitar collection now, I believe, is its best it's ever been. And I will say that I own a lot of guitars that I think are just totally badass. Counting this one, this is an Esp Eclipse Volcano. It has Seymour Duncan blackouts in it, and this guitar plays amazing. This is a Lizzie Hale Gibson Explorer, her custom. This is a really hot guitar. The pickups in it are amazing. I think this is a really well-built guitar as well. This is a Gibson SG Diablo, and there was only 1,000 of these made, and they're definitely, like I say, the Ferrari of SGs. This is a pretty expensive guitar, and it's definitely one of the nicer guitars that I own. Now, I know what you guys are saying. This guy's one of those Gibson fanboys. It's a typical guitarist that likes Slash a lot, or likes Led Zeppelin, or Jimmy Page, whatever, and they're Gibson Les Paul fans, and they think they're best. I will tell you right now, my favorite guitar is not a Gibson Les Paul. My favorite guitar actually is a Gibson SG. And I can go into another whole story of why I like Gibson SGs more, but I'm saying this as a humble opinion. Now that this is probably my 8th or 10th Gibson Les Paul that I've owned, I've bought many Gibson Les Pauls just to play them, sell them, make some money, could do a YouTube review on it. That's cool. But now I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to buy this guitar because I got it for a really good deal, and I'm going to put a nice set of strings on it, set it up, and I'm going to play it until these strings are dead, and I'm going to decide what is my thought of a Gibson Les Paul. Now, I've done this with many guitars. I've done this with just many brands that I've bought and sold, and I've not had as good of an experience as I have with this Les Paul right here. And I've owned, like I said, 8 to 10 Gibson Les Pauls. The best, I would argue the best Gibson Les Paul that I've owned was a Signature T, and I actually sold it. But that's okay, because this one I believe is just as good, and I will show you the features that it comes with, the reason why I chose this. So this is, I don't even know what year it is, 2015. This is a 2015 Les Paul, and a lot of people say these new Les Pauls suck. They're stupid. Every now and then I'm probably sure there's a bad one that gets a bad rap and goes up on YouTube, but I got this for $1,000 used. Mint condition, nothing wrong with it. I had to buy it. This is actually my second blue one that I've owned. The first one I thought, it was great. It had digital tuners on it, which, okay, yeah, scrap that bullshit. But I bought this one and I said, you know what? I'm going to buy a new set of strings, set it up the way I want, and play it. These strings are completely dead now. And I've played this for a few months. This is my main guitar that I play every day. And like I said, I've not had a better experience. It's been in tune. The intonation is perfect. It just plays just amazingly. The overall tone it just sounds like what I would say is the standard tone of any style. Like any style. Blues. If you want to get jazz, indie, rock, metal, hardcore, metalcore. It does everything you would need it to do. Of course, like if you wanted to get really technical, you can change out the pickups and go for that more settled sound. I like how it sounds. I would not personally use this in drop A with the setup for rhythm, but for leads I totally would. Now, the reason why I decided to choose this one over the other ones was because of this brass nut. So I'm going from strings anywhere from 46 to 59. And I wanted a guitar that would hold that attention to detail of where I wouldn't have to change the nut. This brass nut, I don't have to change. I think this is one of the best inventions Gibson has done with the Les Paul since they've come out. I think this brass nut is amazing, and they actually stopped making them, which Gibson, I don't know why. I guess because a lot of people were shitting on these guitars because the production wasn't to quality spec of what Gibson used to be, and they came out with digital tuners. I think they changed too much at once, and people didn't like that. I think this is an awesome guitar. Now, I did change the tuners, and this is just a Gibson traditional. The thing about what I didn't know is I thought the Gibson standards were the closest thing to a 59. Actually, no. A Gibson traditional is the closest thing to a 59, other than the R9s and all those other crazy ones that are way too expensive, or like the 59 reissue or whatever. Those, I'm not paying that much, because I'm going to tell you right now, I truly believe that after $1,500 to $2,000, your guitar does not sound, play, stay in tune better than any other guitar. I honestly think once when you pay $1,500 to $2,000, that guitar is just as good as a $4,000 guitar. I think it's just as good as a $10,000 guitar. I honestly do not think the guitars get better quality after $2,000, and that's just from experience. Like I said, I've played a $6,000 Gibson Les Paul. I forgot which model it was. I think it was an R9 or something. It was when I worked at a music store, and it was a reissue of the 59, and it played amazing, sounded amazing, felt amazing. Did I think it sounded better than this guitar? Not really. I think that was all like the hype of you paying that much money and you thinking it's that good. $3,000 Paul Reed Smiths, I think sound amazing, but I don't think necessarily to the average ear that it would sound better than a Gibson Les Paul at $1,500. This is the most expensive guitar that I've actually owned in my collection that I've kept. I've bought guitars for over $1,000 and I've sold them for more than $1,000, but in my collection, I paid $1,000 for this, and that's what made me want to keep it, because I was like, okay, it's under $1,000, let me just buy new tuners for it, put new strings on it, and test it out, and if I like it, I'll keep it, because I only got it for only $1,000. If you can find a Gibson Les Paul traditional, classic, standard for $1,000, or better yet, even $1,000 to, not better yet, but $1,000 to $1,400 for any of those guitars, I would just get it, honestly, because you're paying under $1,500 for something that is just the quality of the best sounding guitar, I believe. Like, I have Gibson SG standards. I have like the Gibson Explorer. I've played, like I said, I've played them all, guys, and like I don't know how else to tell you guys. Like, just acoustically, even like I don't even need to plug this in an amp, but just I haven't tuned this thing in forever, and it just sounds acoustically, it sounds good. I don't know how to say it. The bends, it just is perfect. I don't know what else to tell you guys. Like, there's so much more I want to say, because this is such a big opinion, and I just think that it's kind of like a hypocritical thing to say on YouTube. I want to know what you think is the best playing guitar in the comments. It's all an opinion, guys, but I will say, with my experience, I'm going to say a Gibson Les Paul is the best guitar overall, just for the money. And I used to think that their prices were outrageous. I get it now. The craftsmanship and the quality that you're paying for is worth it. Now, do I think an Epiphone is going to sound as good as the Gibson? No. I honestly think if you're gonna want to sound like something, you might as well just buy the real thing, even though you're paying a little bit more money. It's kind of like buying one of those like Lamborghini kits, or like you buy this car and then you put a Lamborghini kit on it to make it look like a Lamborghini, but it's not going to perform like a Lamborghini. Now, of course, you pay like under $1,000 for this fake Lamborghini, and that's great. But like if you were to buy, say, a used Lamborghini for under $200,000, you get the actual Lamborghini. That's kind of how I was thinking about this. This is kind of like the Lamborghini. Not saying the Lamborghini is the best car, because I don't know cars that well. I'm just using that as an example. But yeah, I don't know what else to tell you guys. Now, I will say, will I be playing live with this? No. I think it's too heavy. That's the only thing that makes this guitar not the best guitar, is it's too heavy. But I also think that's why it sounds the way it does. Now, some people can play with Les Pauls live. That's perfectly fine. I'm only 140 pounds, so this is a little bit too big for me. And honestly, I think Gibson Les Pauls, or Gibson SGs, are my favorite guitar. Do they stay in tune better than Les Paul? No. Do they sound as good? That's a preference. I think they're a little bit brighter and a little bit tighter sounding. But the overall like spectrum of like sound, I think a Les Paul does sound better. It has the depth, and it has the clarity, and it has the high end, it has the mids, or whatever. I also wanted to mention, why did I choose a traditional over the standards? Like I said before, I think the standards were supposedly supposed to be like the 59s. That's not true. They're actually routed, they have smaller necks, and I'm going to show you a few Gibson Les Paul standards that I have right now that I actually just bought to play, see if I like them, and sell them. This is a Gibson 2015 100th anniversary, and honestly, I would say this is probably the most beautiful Gibson Les Paul. It has like a red sparkle to it. It's just like, it has the push-pull. That's awesome. It smells amazing, and the only thing that's ugly is that Les Paul logo, but that is the only downfall of this guitar. This is a 2012 Gibson Les Paul Standard, and it actually has /Alnico 2 pickups in it. This guitar totally rocks. I love it a lot. It doesn't have coil splitting, but it just sounds amazing. This is a 2019 Gibson Standard, an amber burst with split coils. This sounds amazing as well, and I will also say too, I've played the older Gibson Les Pauls, like say the 1990s. I think I played a 1980s. I know I played, I think it was a 1970s with P90s in it. It was all crackled. That sounded amazing. I don't necessarily believe that whole stigma of Gibson Les Paul standards in the 80s sounded so much better than the new shit made today. Honestly, that's some horse shit. I honestly believe it's all a preference thing. I think it's because of you're playing something that feels older, and it's just, I don't know, it's like having an old car versus a new car. Now, personally, if you're going to cars again, I think old cars are so much better than the new cars today. That's just my preference, because they're made with like solid metal, and they just had personality in each car. But does that necessarily mean an old car is actually better than the new cars today, like say a Tesla? All opinion, guys. Now, what made me choose a traditional over those three awesome standards that I have behind me? The reason why, honestly, because I really liked how the neck felt. This thing is fat. Like, this to me feels like how a Gibson Les Paul should. The standards are kind of like a hot rodded version of a Gibson Les Paul. And I found out that the traditionals are supposedly like how they were back in the day, and I'm just a fan of that. I think that's really cool. Do I think the standards are better than the traditionals? I think that's all preference. I do think the standards are lighter. I think they're a little bit thinner, and that's cool if you want to play those live. But for Gibson Les Paul's reasons, because I'm such a diehard Gibson SG fan, I know I'm going to be playing Gibson SGs live anyways, so I just wanted to stick with the biggest, truest, I guess, Les Paul I could find without paying $6,000. Comment below. Tell me what guitar you think is the best. Tell me what you think your personal opinion is of Les Pauls. And yeah, you can check out my new album that just dropped. You can follow me on Instagram. I hope you guys have an awesome year, even though this year is really rough with coronavirus, riots, racism, and all that. I think this year is pretty negative. I hope this video brings some positivity to you, and I will hope to see you soon.